are you saying that the environment I'm eating a meal in can actually trigger genes, maybe trigger genes off, like has a genetic influence on me?
Absolutely. And so we go through some of this in the book as well and pointing out some of these different studies. But it's really important to understand that the most influential factor, if we're talking about epigenetics, is looking at the influence of our environment, our external and internal environment. And we have these basically, they're kind of like antennas. They're these protein antennas on our cells that are picking up signals from the environment. But all of that stuff going on around us, it's still going to be based on our perception of them,
Hmm.
because even our thoughts change the chemistry in our bodies immediately. And so let me give an overarching study just to kind of look at like
Yep.
what is the most known as far as like factual data that we have on our relationships that influence on our health. And so I had a conversation recently with the director of the longest running longitudinal study on human health and longevity. All right, so that
Mm.
means longitudinal means they're following the same people. And this has been going on for over 80 years. So he's the fourth director to have this baton passed to him at Harvard. And the data indicates clearly it's not even close. It's not even close. Yes, sleep wellness is important, exercise, good food, all that stuff is great. But the quality of our relationships is by far the most influential factor on how long we're going to live and live healthfully. The quality of our relationships. And so, in addition to that, one of the studies that I shared in the book, and this is a massive study, this is a meta analysis of
Mm.
148 studies. This is a huge set of data. So, looking at multiple studies together in one study, and this included about 300,000 participants as well. And the researchers found that having healthy social bonds led to about a 50% reduction in all cause mortality for these
Mm.
300,000
Crazy.
people. All right, so that means it's a 50% reduction in dying prematurely from essentially everything. That's how
Crazy.
important of an epigenetic influence our relationships really are. So, yes, absolutely.
And I think some of us have heard stats like that before, but what I really don't want to be get lost in this conversation is this marriage between the social science and the nutritional science, because it would be easy to hear that statistic and say, well, yeah, I have good friends. We go out into the bar every Thursday night and we have buffalo wings and beer, and it's like they're my homies. What I think you're saying is that whenever we sit down to a meal, if we can add good principles of nutrition with good principles of socializing,
Yeah.
now we have taken our health to a whole next level. It's not about eating a healthy meal while looking at Instagram and deciding you don't like what people are saying. And it's not about going out to the bar with the buddies and eating whatever you want, but you're socializing. You got to bring both those principles together. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And these are things that our genes expect from us. Through our evolution, we did food together. And if you look at, there are still some hunter-gatherer tribes around on the planet today. There are a couple of different locations where you could find them. But all of us, we evolved in kind of a tribal construct, and we did all of the parts of food together: hunting, gathering, the food preparation, and of course, eating together, and also celebration. It is during this act where you even said earlier, like alluding to like the dinner table is really a unifier for conversation, but it's also an important place for passing on culture and tradition. Prior to the advent of
Ooh.
books, this is how we passed on traditions and culture and insights and important revelations about our place in the universe from generation to generation, was surrounding this celebration of food and eating together, right? This is where the kids were getting,
Love
there's
that.
dramatization of things, there's the storytelling, there's song, there's dance. We see dramatizations of this act. If you go to a place like Hawaii, for example, and they put on a luau, right?
Mm.
But that is something that is embedded in all of our culture. My wife is from Kenya, right? So there's a
Mm.
closer lineage, a closer connection to that thing that everybody was doing on different parts of this planet, right? And now the question is, what happens when that part gets pulled away? Not only do we kind of move away from this tribal construct, I could say devolve in a sense, but we started to live, we created communities or neighborhoods, right? But even within that, and there's still some more of that today, where you still have your extended family in close proximity, all right? That was still a thing. Then, just in the last couple of decades, we've branched out even further, and oftentimes we don't have extended family nearby. And
Mm.
then, just within the last 20 years, something we really couldn't have even seen coming fractured our connection even more, because
Mm.
even inside of our own household, we're now divided because of our devices. People
Yeah.
can be existing there at the same time and completely pulled into another reality and not present with the people in our own household. And so this is really a call to action to bring us back together, because as the data indicates, there's something really important missing in that ingredient for a healthy, functional human being that was pulled away. And the last little part here I want to share on this is I'll tell you the study that prompted me is just like, I have to write this book. And there was these researchers at Harvard were compiling data on eating behaviors of family members and their food choices for years. And I
Mm.
was just like,
Mm.
what? This is amazing. And I was digging through the data, and they found that families that eat together on a regular basis, strangely, were consuming more real foods, consuming significantly, not even close, significantly higher amounts of essential nutrients that prevented diseases in those family members. And they were just kind of naturally consuming less ultra processed foods, chips and soda, and all these kind of nefarious ingredients. Also, they noted they were consuming significantly less. And then couple that with a study that was published in the journal Pediatrics, where it's looking at specifically the health outcomes of kids. And they found that eating together with their parents or their caregivers on a regular basis, they found 3 meals a week was the minimum effective dose. There was a dramatically reduced incidence of development of obesity in those children, significantly reduced incidence of developing eating disorders. And then for the parents, one other study I'll just throw in here as well. This was looking at office workers at IBM in the tech industry, and they were tracking their eating behaviors with their family and stress management with work. And they found that when these office workers were able to consistently eat dinner with their families, regardless of how high their stress was at work, they were able to essentially metabolize that stress, remain more balanced, work morale stayed high, productivity, stress levels stayed negligible. Again, it could be super stressful at work, but there was something that was helping them to metabolize and process that stress. By the way, I don't talk about this often. Also in the study, they found that even if there was conflicts in the family, if there was personal conflicts, all of that stuff was reduced when they consistently ate dinner with their family. But as soon as work and other obligations cut into that face-to-face meal time, guess what happened? Stress levels became intolerable. Work morale went down. Productivity went down. Their health started to go down. There's something essential our DNA expects with food and family, food and friends. Friends are included too. Food and community. There's something really protective for us as a species when we do those two things together.